Greetings and bienvenue, MITZU. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
You will never live in the golden age of internet forums again.
I developed a weird hobby for most of the year back in 2020. I'd prowl the internet looking for ancient, decrepit forums, the kinds no one posts on anymore, the kinds long dead and forgotten ever since Facebook and Twitter and Playbook came into being, and I'd register a new account if I could, and just start messaging random, particularly old accounts. Usually I'd send weird images /x/type photos, shit like that. Occasionally I'd ask weird questions like, "Is anybody there?" or "What are you?" The novelty wore off quickly, but I couldn't help but keep doing it. Constantly I'd check my email and the inbox on whatever forum I was on to see if anyone responded, to see if I weirded some guy out. And I'd always get this little hit of adrenaline before I saw my inbox lay bare, or my most recently received email was for penis enlargement pills. That thrill of the idea of someone responding, as voyeuristic as it was, kept me going. I had received quite a few replies, surprisingly, usually people laughing me off, asking if I was a spam bot, some telling me to end myself, etc. None really worth noting, but in November I got quite the reply. On some old forum for, I think, some type of Second Life fan group, I had messaged a guy who hadn't logged in since 2006. My message was simple, in all lowercase, italicized, "Why are you here?" Now I had picked him out in particular for no real reason other than his real name was displayed on his profile, and we shared first names. I decided as a bit I'd do up my profile as similar to his as possible, and even used the same name as him. I wanted to fuck with him, hoping I'd get a really funny response. I didn't. Simply attached in the shitty SMS system on the website was a video. It was very low quality, probably compressed to even fit on the website, and it was of the outside of a suburban home, late at night. The footage was fuzzy, dim, and tinged a fluorescent orange. No lights were on in the house, and the camera seemed to be sitting in some bushes. Gently, the bushes rustled as the camera was repositioned, and it was sat directly in front of the house, the door centered in the view. Slowly, the camera zoomed in on the front door, the two windows at the front barely visible in the periphery. One of the windows opened, and some guy in baggy white clothes climbed out. I could only see his side, but he seemed to be wearing streetwear of some kind. That's the best I can describe his clothes. And slowly, the camera zoomed out again, giving a wide berth of the front yard once more. Slowly, 6 men walked into the yard from the left and right of the camera's view, standing together facing the house and clasping hands. The video had no audio, but it seemed to me like they were singing something. The house's lights turned on suddenly, and a silhouette of a woman walked in front of one of the windows. Again, the video quality was shit, but it looked like she was shocked by something, before quickly being rammed by something and falling backwards. This was by far the weirdest fucking reply I had ever gotten in my entire escapade doing this, and it sort of broke the habit. Someone topped my fucking weirdness. I tried to go back and get the video from the site before I began typing all of this up, but the fucker had been banned for spam, and weirdly it seemed a lot of the people I had messaged before on the site itself had recently came online. No other profile activity, however.
Anything else interesting? Even if not as interesting as this? Seems like a cool hobby if you're a NEET with infinite time.
A few times I was spammed with nudes or porn in response, one time gore. But I have a few other interesting things I came across in my time doing this. The story I shared was probably as interesting as it gets though. This one was from a Sims forum, and I think it might have been the first time I got a response. This was before I started trying to do creepy shit as a bit, and it was more like prank calls. I found the account of some modder who seemed to be popular on the forums, who vanished sometime circa 2014. I asked about a mod he made, and said that the download was broken and started preparing my web of lies for this. I hopped off my PC to go make myself some dinner because it was getting late and I hadn't eaten much all day, and to my delight after a night's rest I woke up to a message back. Unfortunately, it was a little sad. There was an indicator in the message that it was originally sent as an email. Apparently the guy who owned the account passed away from some type of cancer, and that the person managing his email, who I think was his wife or perhaps a co-worker, couldn't offer any help. To date, it's the only time I had something like this happen. Another time I was actually trawling the Bay 12 Dwarf Fortress forums. I'm a pretty big Dwarf Fortress fan. Probably obvious considering I'm neat enough to do shit like prank message people on long dead forums all day. But I messaged a guy who hadn't touched his account since 2007. He had one post on his account which was literally just Dwarf Fortress cool. I don't know why that stuck with me all these years. I guess I found it funny. I decided to send him a stupid jump scare video. He shot me a message back of a shotgun, a string of numbers. I'm guessing it was meant to be my IP, but I checked my IP soon after and the numbers didn't match up, and a box of shells. Then he blocked me. Another story comes from some forum made for a WoW guild that's probably long disbanded. It was called something like Pizza Boys or some weird shit like that, and the was actually largely dead. Technically this wasn't on the forum, but I ought to include it. I found the contact info of the owner of the site and the leader of the guild, and I sent him my standard fare and email simply asking, "What's behind you?" It'd actually be a few weeks before he responded. Fucker took it in stride, gave a detailed description of his room, and then ended off the email with his fucking address, asking if I wanted to meet up. I didn't respond.
The internet is being scrubbed. When the internet was new, people thought it would become the ultimate archival tool. But in the last decade, the masses were herded into social media clusters, easily censored, easily controlled. A centralized power structure mimicking the state, exchanging freedom for various things of debatable value. Arguably, the only decent part is it's now easier than ever to go viral, since everybody sees the same sites. The most recent example is Tate, who became a household name just by manipulating the algorithm. But now the spirit of the old internet, while still alive, is actively hunted down. Any information deemed a thought crime is removed meticulously. First from sites like Reddit, Twitter, and yes, 4chan. Then they go delving into wikis, scrub that too. You saw this recently with Wikispooks. Inseminate the idea that this is a bad thing amongst your bots and shills and useful idiots, and they'll screech at anybody who tries to spread it. Could go deeper still, but the average surfer will now be at a loss even if he knows what he's looking for. I'm not going to give examples of things that have been scrubbed. By their nature, nobody would know what the fuck I was talking about. But know that many conspicuous facts and pictures and videos have been carefully plucked out of existence except on obscure chat rooms and poorly moderated corners. We are entering a completely new ball game of tyranny and bullshit. They aren't gonna allow any truth or opposition. The knees are buckling. They can't allow a violent uprising against them about any shit whatsoever. They can't handle the burden now. They're gonna try to starve us out. But when push comes to shove, violence and public executions will start again until enough people have enough of this and abandon the old system. Then quay false savior and false prophet.
I have. It's part of the reason I don't browse online as much since the experience was a bit scary. I'll green text it. Be me at 13. The internet is not new, but most people still had dial-up. But wireless was just starting to pop up. Be poor and have shitty dial-up at home. I am never allowed on the computer for more than 2 hours, and that was if I was allowed on at all. This was a problem because I had just started this online relationship with a girl. Library had gotten new computers, and the internet was fast. Pretty slow by today's standards, though. Spend most of my time at the library on their computers. The librarians knew me and thought it was kinda cute. I had a girlfriend, although they were concerned about her being a 30-year-old creep. After a few months, she tells me her parents found out due to her sister, and she will not be able to get on, and we break up. I do not go to the library for the next few weeks, but I eventually get the urge to go back and check on the forum I used to get on. I hop on, and everything was suddenly incredibly dull. It turns out the admin did a purge of all unhealthy members, so nothing was really worth looking at. I decide to look for more chat rooms and find an anime forum that looks lively enough, and the admin looked relatively laid back. I make an account and began to lurk. I eventually post in a few threads and introduce myself. I do not talk to many people in private message aside from people asking me age, sex, location, but those were ignored. I mostly did not care to message anyone, and no one cared to message me. The strange thing about this forum was the link to the live chat. In order to speak on the live chat, you had to make an account specifically for the chat itself. It was linked to multiple sites, and one was about magic, as in witchcraft. There were not many witches around, and those that were did not really discuss magic, but the subject did come up from time to time. One day on my way home from school, I decided to stop by the library and get on the live chat. The forums were pretty dead when I got off from school, but the live chat usually had some people in it. I hop on and found out there were only a handful of active members. They were all discussing magic. They were talking about spells. One said he tried to contact his grandpa, etc. I mention an interest in the subject, but I admit I am skeptical. The conversation goes on, and they try to introduce me to it. They tell me it is about believing in it, and our will influences the magic. Not sure that I buy it, but being 13, anything that should give me benefits with little work was interesting enough. Now the chat room had its own private messaging system. You could simply see who was online, click their name, and it would give you the option to report, block, or private message. There were no options beyond that. In the middle of the conversation, I get a message from Bay13A9L. That username kind of sticks in my mind now. They introduce themselves with a generic, "Hi, I am Bay13A9L." I respond and introduce myself with my username. I get a response that asks if I am truly interested in magic. I tell them I am interested, but I am deeply skeptical, and the others in the chat do not seem to be helpful. They respond and tell me they are fools and are not practicing real magic. I ask them what they mean, and they simply respond with, "I will show you in time." I tell them that is fine, and they tell me to get on tomorrow at the same time before immediately signing out. Weird, but whatever. The next day I go back and get on the chat. It is more lively, and within a few minutes of me logging on, I get a message from them. I guess you really would like to learn, it seems. I tell them I would and ask what makes them sure they practice real magic. They respond with, "So you want me to prove my magic?" That is understandable. Mortals do not listen to me when I tell them anyways. I know you go to school. Tomorrow your fire alarms will go off. I will see you when you get off. They log off and I go back to chatting with others. I'd forgotten about what they said, and around the end of the day, our fire alarms went off. I suddenly remember what they said and assumed it was one of my friends trying to prank me. The only problem was that none of my friends knew I was on that site. They did not even know I went to the library. I go back that day and log on. Right as the chat finishes loading, I get a message, "How were the alarms, child?" I told them I definitely want to learn. They tell me that there is power all around, and you have to focus on harnessing it. I was instructed that my age is the best time to learn. Learning too early was impossible, and starting too late made it difficult to progress. I kind of say, "Okay," and do not ask questions. They then inform me to start focusing when I get home. Just close my eyes and focus on a small red dot. They told me it would be hard to focus, but it gets easier with time. Eventually, the dot will grow in size. After a certain point, I will only be able to see red anytime I focus. I go home and try to focus. Every day I go back and they ask for my progress. I tell them I have trouble focusing and they say that is okay. One day I go home only for my mom to surprise me with a trip to my grandparents. We visit with them and headed home. I did not focus on the dot that night. I hop on and get a message asking why I did not train last night. I apologize before realizing they should not be able to know if I trained or not. I grow concerned, but they tell me the red dot is simply their energy, and I am drawing it towards them over a great distance. I start to focus more and more every day and start to make a little progress. Only one day, I try and can't manage to even see a red dot. I get on the next day and get a message telling me to remove the cross from my room. I tell them I do not have a cross in my room. They tell me to look in my dresser before they sign out. Needless to say, there was a cross in my dresser. It was my mother's necklace, and she said it must have fell in there when she was putting away my laundry. Try to focus that night and the red dot is there. This process goes on for a while. Our conversations are not very long. They just ask how I am doing and I tell them the progress is slow. The conversations would usually end there unless I spurred them on. Usually I would ask what can they do. They told me about flying, telepathy, seeing things at great distances, controlling fire, sickness, health, lots of things you cannot do under normal circumstances. Hearing all of it makes me keep practicing. I hop on one day and they tell me my progress is slow. They tell me I need to speed it up with a blood sacrifice. I was instructed to kill my dog. That was where my line was drawn. I refuse, and then their tone shifted, well, as much as tone can shift online. They told me I should not refuse them, and that this is my last chance to listen, or I would regret it. I still refuse, and they say something along these lines. I hope you sleep soundly tonight. I will be there to caress your little brown locks before smothering you while you sleep. Do not bother staying awake to scream for help. I know your mother keeps her door open at night in case you do scream. She will not hear you. Her door will be closed and her throat will be slit. Your dog will not bark either. She will be foaming at the mouth from the poison that is now in the food. See you tonight. Go home and try not to piss myself the whole night. My mother notices and tries to get me to talk, but I won't budge. Eventually, I get sent to bed. I decided to take my Game Boy to bed for comfort, as well as having some kind of light for my room. I stay up and 12 passes and soon 1 a.m. rolls around and I start to fight off sleep. My mom is still awake and I can see the light from her TV in her room from my room. Suddenly her door shuts and it was rather loud. It was loud enough to make my dog bark, which actually gave me some comfort. My mom starts shouting, "Anon, why did you slam my door?" I don't answer for fear of the witch, and my mom getting mad at me for still being awake. I don't really sleep that night. I would pass out for a few minutes only to wake up again. Nothing happened aside from the door slamming, and life returned to normal. I didn't get back on for about a year. When I returned, the forum had ditched that chat room and launched their own. The parts that bother me is that I never described myself. There were no pictures, and tracking me wasn't possible since I only was on the chat rooms at the library and not my house. She couldn't have known about my dog, my brown hair, or the fact the door to my mom's room was open. That's the most paranormal experience I've had, too. Ouija boards, regular spells from those magic sites, once tried to summon a spirit, and all proved fruitless. I don't think she was human, or if she was, then she had to have had some insight into my life. Either way, it was unpleasant. Also, the chat room URL was primarily numbers, so I couldn't give you the URL, as I didn't remember it. I went through the link in the forum to get there.
I have been on the internet since 1998. You can still have a glimpse of what it was if you use Wibby. I used to be moderator of several forums, had my GeoCities website, Yahoo groups, even a radio station. Yeah, the internet was a beautiful place to be in. The bot started roughly in 2012, the spam and ads in 2007. We became a product in 2010. Geeks and rich kids were the only ones using the internet during its infancy, so it was pretty much a safe place. I remember talking with so many strangers and feeling connected. With new apps, it'll be hard for bots to pretend they are real if everyone goes for streaming platforms. There is hope. But then again, your typical shy user will be excluded. And I've noticed that I used to get many followers with dummy accounts, but recently people only like things that are extremely new. So I believe the bots will recycle funny videos or animal videos and post it several times to increase their follower accounts. Another thing that comes to my mind is that people grew and have more things to do outside the internet. I personally closed many websites and forums I had.
Basically this. I'm older, late 30s, and I'm old enough to remember the golden age of the internet, but just young enough to not remember the glory days of Usenet groups. I can't say the exact year we got a computer, but it was late 90s. There were a lot less people online, so it gave it a more intimate feel. I think whenever you searched for something, you could genuinely find something interesting. The main difference between then and now was people put useful things online. It was more about helping others, and less about how many hits your YouTube video got. Social media didn't exist, and you didn't have women online taking simp dollars for shitty Instagram posts. I can't say why, but the connections I made then felt so much more genuine than the shallow ones you make now. I remember there was a website where you could play games online with people. The games were like Family Feud and Wheel of Fortune, things like that. I used to go to the Family Feud lobby and play all the time. I made a few connections. I remember being a teen and talking to a Canadian woman. We exchanged emails and stayed in contact for the longest time. I don't know whatever happened to her. Then I met a girl in California. We end up exchanging numbers and talking. It was so mind-boggling for me as a kid to be talking to a woman on the other side of the country. I also remember meeting a dude on a comic book forum. We became friends. I end up telling him about my height insecurity issues because I'm a manlet. Turns out he was a literal dwarf, like 4'10". He had some kind of genetic issue and he was married, but his wife treated him like shit. I still remember his name, Superman of Earth 30. He was a good dude.
Make a sarcastic post on a celebrity's Facebook page a couple years back. Think nothing of it. A few days after that, I began to notice the occasional strange reference or nod to something I would post on my own profile by this celebrity. Brush it off as me looking too deeply into things. It begins to happen with more frequency and less subtlety. Tell myself that I am making something out of nothing. Suddenly, this begins to happen with other A-list celebrities that the initial celebrity has ties to. No matter how obscure the content was, a few hours later, one of them would have referenced some aspect of it in some way. An aesthetic, a meme, some of them inexplicably becoming inspired by some obscure dusty genre of music that I would dig up from the bowels of some forum days prior. A lot of this shit being old and forgotten, or too weird for the likes of a normie celebrity to be aware of on his own. Think I am losing my mind. I attempt to actively manipulate this by finding the weirdest shit I can. Start finding and reposting quotes and abstract symbol art from random nobody artists. Again, not even days later, references to it all over the fucking place. The face when pretty sure my eccentric behavior on the internet has somehow made me the mascot/source of amusement for some weird sect of bored social elite. The face when can't discuss this with anyone sane because they will immediately think I am a nutjob, and I can't blame them. No idea what the point of it is, if they are aware that I am aware of them, if they are even trying to get my attention, or if this is just some weird game they are playing amongst themselves.
Sadly, we can't have nice things. That old era has gone. The internet nowadays is not another realm one steps into. The concept of cyberspace is dead. The internet has become another dreary aspect of your everyday life, bound by the same rules, social etiquette, and national laws. Our generation grew up, became lumbered down with important things to do in real life, and left the escapism of the web behind. The generation that came after us never knew a pre-Facebook and MySpace internet to know the difference. Meanwhile, the beady eyes of the moaning, complaining middle-class mums were watching, demanding that everything be banned and regulated for the sake of the children. Corporations found out that the internet was a fantastic business space and promptly began buying up or overtaking existing websites with a focus on personal information becoming increasingly necessary to keep the advertising revenue flowing. Google rose to dominance without anybody ever questioning them, and they utterly eliminated the concept of privacy as though it never even existed. Of course, why should it? Only Minecraft YouTubers and weirdos would want to keep things secret. And like that, the humble, filthy chat room died like a prehistoric bird. That is the story of how we lost the chance to make the internet great. This is what it must feel like to be on the losing side of a civil war, gathering places like this to talk about how things used to be. We're the Confederate South. Mumsnet tabloid nutters, MySpace, Google and Co. were the Unionists. It really does make me sad. We had the chance to make a utopia of self-expression unhindered by society's judgmental gaze, and we threw it away so that they can spam me with specifically tailored junk email.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.